people. I go by the name Shotade Olusegun. In this particular live session, I will be dissecting my research publication. So I'm going to actually, give you detailed information about that scientific research publication so that there will be no confusion as to what the research publication is all about. So now, as you can see on my screen, the first thing I have here is, the publication certificate. Before I dissect the publication itself, I just want you to have, idea of how the research publication is being peer reviewed, the criteria used in accepting it, and then, the criteria used in publishing it. So now, this is the journal. You can see it right on the screen. You can see it right on the screen. International Journal of Scientific and Engineering Research, IJSER, publication certificate. So then the website, you can see the website at the left corner topmost region. The paper number is what we have right here, which is I018540. Now, paper title, this particular one is Seeing the Anatomy of Quantum Gravity Through Formula of Everything. This is the second publication. So there is, the first publication, that is, the time theory of the universe. So you can see the authors, Olusegun Shotade. Yes, I'm the author of that research paper. So now, type of the paper, we have it to be a research. You can see research is being highlighted right there. So evaluation of it, significance of contribution, we have it to be 3 because it's a novel research publication. So it's a research publication that attempts to unify quantum mechanics to classical mechanics. So it has, something of that nature has never been in existence. You understand? So it's a novel research discovery. So when I'm talking about classical mechanics, I'm, talking about the entire classical system to quantum system. You understand? So basically the formula aims to unify quantum mechanics to classical mechanics, but by applying that formula, I realized that the unification is even beyond classical mechanics to quantum mechanics. So we have it beyond, where we have the solution is at complex level, and then we have the integration into the quantum mechanics, and then from there we have the feedback to classical mechanics. So it is even beyond what we envisage to have, like it is far beyond. So it's like pointing to something that is more than what I envisaged right from the onset of that research project. You understand? So the significance of contribution, because it's a novel research publication, so they had to make it 3. It's okay. Then originality of content, that is 4. Then technical quality, that too is 4. Clarity of presentation, 4. And so when you look at the overall recommendation section, you can see that accepting current state is highlighted. So now, additional comment, there you see that the paper was published in IJSER volume 13, issue 6, June 2022 edition. So that is that. Then you can see the stamp and the stamp and other things right there. So Then another thing I would like to show you will be, let me show you that that first publication, which is, yes, so you can see the first publication is this. So the first publication is this, the time theory of the universe. And so the evaluation is the same for that as well. So then I want to show you this, which is, certificate of publication. This acknowledges that Olusegun Shotade has successfully published a research paper, seeing the anatomy of quantum gravity through formula of everything. So that is that. You can see that June 2022. Now let's look at the second certificate of publication. So you can see certificate of publication. This acknowledges that Shota Olusegun has successfully published research paper, The Time Theory of the Universe. Now you can see that was published on October 2021. So that is that. So that is that about that. So now let's now go into that research. I want to start with the time theory of the universe. So I want to start with this. I want to make it bigger. Okay, so at least we should be able to see clearly like this. Good. So now this is the paper, and as you can see, the time theory of the universe, Shota Olusegun, the abstract is right there. So now this research publication, it was coined by normal, phenomena that we have at classical level. But basically, they are just things that we can relate with. Let me give you an example. For instance, let's say we have somebody on earth. Of course, being on earth, the person would not be able to see the full reality of earth. And so the person might think the earth is flat. And so the moment the person travels away from, the earth to a certain distance, then the person will be able to see the full shape of the earth, and then the person will know the full reality of the earth's shape. You understand? So now, based on this, we can get to know that based on our position at a certain distance, we can get some reality. But the main important thing is that person will actually have the full picture of the earth to know the reality of earth's shape, but the person will be delusional of the components on the earth, like other beings on the earth, because at that particular distance to earth, people on earth will not be in clear sight, or will not be visibly seen. You understand? So basically, it means that by being so far away from the earth, one will actually, trade off something for that. And if you are too close to the earth, then you will trade off the overall view of the earth. So basically, there is a certain position that one must be in order to get, a particular reality. Now, what I'm actually sharing with you right now, I will still talk about it later in this particular live session, because this nature of uncertainty, we have it, but it's not in form of position and momentum by at quantum level. We have this uncertainty principle that you cannot get position and get momentum at the same time. But by the time we unify quantum mechanics to classical mechanics, we still have this trait of uncertainty, but it is not in form of, trading off momentum for position. You understand? So when I get to that point, I will shed more light on that. So, um, so now, if you should move away from the earth such that the earth now become a tiny point, you know, you'll not be able to get that reality of the earth anymore. And it will be difficult for you to actually define what earth is all about. So we can actually liken that situation to, the tiny earth to quantum mechanics. Why where you are in relativistic scaling to that tiny earth can be likened to classical mechanics. But if you move far away from the earth such that earth is out of sight, it's another thing entirely, because then we can just liken that to complex mechanics. And then in relativity to where you are, we can liken that to classical mechanics. Now, if you want to reconnect to that earth, then it is imperative, or it is then inevitable for you to travel at the speed of time. The speed of time by default is, and so that simply means that by traveling at instant speed, you can actually get um, the earth at that complex level at its exact position. Because when you look at it, as you are moving away from the earth as well is moving away from you. That is it. And you discover that as you are approaching the earth too will be approaching you. So there will be this central emergence between you and that other object. So that is what is called relativity, because the moment you are moving away from that object, then there will be this central emergence that we serve, that we, mirror the trajectory such that both of you will be moving away from each other at equal speed. So that is that. And this relativity is one thing that makes it difficult for one to actually travel at the speed of time. So it operates within the speed limit of light. And that is why we have this constraint of light. I mean, yes, light speed limit, you understand? But basically, for us to get reality by unifying quantum mechanics to classical mechanics, we must activate that instant trajectory, instant speed of time. You understand? So basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you are moving under the constraint of light speed, then as you are moving towards the earth too will be moving towards you. So you will never meet that earth at its exact position. So that is just one idea as to how to go about this research publication. And the other idea is what we have in the abstract, which is, you know, how we often have this transformation from solid to liquid and gas. You understand? So when you look at that, you see that it has to do with how the particles are being arranged. And if you now try to dissect that in relation to time, then you will see that we need to dissect the relationship of energy to time. And not only that, we need to dissect relationship of energy to time and then to mass. So that is the whole idea about this research, term theory of the universe. And so then through all this, but if you read through, I decided to use differential calculus of Sir Isaac Newton, then combine it with the MC squared. You can see that around this introduction. And so how do I envisage to do this? I just want to integrate that E equals MC squared in that differential calculus. And then another thing that I need to do is I need to use chain rule, because for me to properly model the relationship of time to energy and to mass, I have to use chain rule so I can capture those three elements in the chain rule. So then, if you read through, then you will see, some ideas as to how I'm to go about it. But now let's quickly go through this derivation of formula of everything. So now I have brief derivation of formula of everything right here. Now you can see here I'm suggesting that the fifth force of the universe should be time force. You can see that right around this place. So now to the formula of everything. So now let me just briefly read this small place before we go to derivation of that formula of everything. The space of time interval is the necessitating factor for movement, rotation, gravitation, speed, action, growth, balance, hosting of moving entity, emanation of existence, vibration, wave, radiation, and so on. Then it is safe to say time is the movement of energy, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. And energy is the movement of gravitation, which is the movement of mass concentrated matter, gravitational force. Mathematically, we can say T is the function of E, energy, where energy is the function of gravity, where E is the function of G, which is the gravitational function of mass. You understand? So we can just have that like that. So with that, you can see that yes, we are going somewhere. So now to start with the derivation, I have the chain rule right here. You can see the formula, the T, the M equal to the T, the E times the E, the M. So for T is a function of M, let T equal to E square. For T is the function of E, where E equal to M square plus 1. Therefore, E is the function of gravity, or is the function of Gm. Thus, T equal to E square equal to bracket open M square plus 1 close bracket squared. So now with that, then I now have this dt dE, that is 2 times 1e, 2 minus 1, we have it to be 2e. So if I derive the e dm, then I'm going to have it to be 2m. So by chain rule, we have it to be dt dm equal to dt dE times dE dm. So then it's going to be 2e times 2m, and that will give us 4em. So therefore, we can then have dt dm equal to, so now when we now put this particular, the moment we now put this, our placeholder, which is this e squared equal to bracket open m squared plus 1 close bracket squared. So if we use that placeholder, then we're going to have, okay, now this first placeholder is what we are actually using, which is the e equal to m squared plus 1. So by the time we use that, and the reason we might need to use that is for the fact that we are trying to get, the ideal linear solution that will be nested right inside the curvature of time to energy. And for us to have that structure, we're going to use that placeholder. And by the time we put that, we're going to make the to we're going to make that E of the 4EM to be represented by that, bracket open M squared plus 1. And so once we have that, we're going to have the TDM equal to 4 bracket open M squared plus 1 close bracket M. And once we solve that, we're going to have 4M squared plus 4M. Now, this 4M squared plus 4M is the 4M squared is a placeholder for strong conveying force, while the 4M is a placeholder for weak conveying force. So I call it conveying force because we're going to have this momentum right from where we have the suspension to bridge the divergence from classical mechanics to quantum mechanics. So after having that, then we can to induct E equals mc squared as E in our 4EM. Then we're going to have 4M squared plus 1 4M placeholder. So let E squared for T is the function of E, where E equal the M dot C squared close square. So now the M is going to be, the gravitational speed of sun, which is 274 meter per second square. And C will be the speed of light, which is 3.0 times 10 raised to power 8 miles per second square. So now the speed of sun's gravitational force and the speed of light respectively, that's what we're going to use. And so we have we now have this dt the m equal to 4em equal 4, then we put the mc squared right inside that plus 1m. And once we supply the values, then we're going to have dt dm equal to 4. We open bracket, we have 274, which is the gravitational speed of sun. We're using gravitational speed of sun because sun, all heavenly bodies revolve around sun. And so we're going to use generic gravitational speed of sun for us, to be able to have the ideal constant speed of the universe. So we have 274, we open bracket 9.0, 274, we open bracket 3.0 times 10 raised to power 8, then squared. When the bracket is closed, we then close the second bracket, we put the square right there too, plus 1m. So now under it we have dt dm equal to 4 274, then we have 9.0 times 10 raised to power 16. We close that and then have everything being squared plus 1. We close that, then we have m. Then dt dm equal to 4. We open bracket, we have 6.3 times 10 raised to power 38. So we close that plus 1, then we close the bracket to have another m outside. Then dt dm equal to 2.5 times 10 raised to power 39 plus 4. We close the bracket to have another m. So when we open the bracket, then it will give us 2.5 times 10 raised to power 39m plus 4m. So now the constant speed of the universe can be denoted by capital U, and we have it to be, so the constant speed of the universe is 2.5 times 10 raised to power 39m. 39 without the m, so we substitute that for capital U, then we have dt dm equal to capital Um plus 4. So that is how the formula of everything is being derived, and that is the formula of everything right there. So now look at the way that formula is, briefly applied here. So the formula is briefly applied by using 86 kg. So you can substitute the mass worth of what you want to use. You can use classical mass worth, you can use quantum mass worth to get its counterpart. You understand? So then we put 86 kilogram in our formula, and then what we get as answer is 2.2. dt dm equal to 2.2 times 10 raised to power 41 plus 344. So 344 will be suspended to that extended zero. But the final result that we got is 2.20 times 10 raised to power 41. Then it seems as if that 344 has no effect on it. But then it is being suspended but hidden. So that is what we will dissect in the second publication. So then here I have some other, 6 proofs that time speed is faster than the speed of light. So time speed is instant. So I have some proof here. The first one says static charges only affect other charges, not magnets. And static magnets will only affect other magnets, but moving magnets affect charges by generating electric field. Therefore, since movement is made possible by space of time intervals, then time force ignites the relative connectivity between magnets and electricity to form electromagnetic wave that characterizes the speed of light. So time is electromagnetic speed of relativity scaling. So this is where I'm able to now define what time is. I now say time is electromagnetic speed of relativity scaling. So you will get to understand this in the second publication. So then, how then can, if we have it to be like that, then how then can the created be faster than its creator? So the speed of light is within the jurisdiction of time. And then another one we have is that since time is electromagnetic speed of relativity scaling, then time speed is faster than the speed of light for equal opposite relative scaling is a propelling force for the advancement of time to expanding universe. So you can see those facts are right there, and there are still more which I will not, shed more light on. So this is just like, brief introduction to the research publication. So now the fifth force of the universe is time force. I would like to commence the introduction of the fifth force for the universe with one of my quotes, and you can get all my quotes on www.poemonta.com by searching for Shota Delushegun. Unseen things are valuable than seen things. So this is a palindromic extract. It's a palindromic extract from my poem, and it's something that is so powerful. And this particular thing is what actually opened my eyes to that suspension that we have after applying that formula of everything. So the suspension is right there, and that suspension is so essential for us to get that unification of quantum mechanics to classical mechanics. You understand? So you can see that by applying that formula of everything, there is no connection to any quantum mass worth. But then we have this diagonal suspension in terms of the value that we have. But by going through this palindromic poem, then I was able to realize that that value, which is 344, can't just be insignificant. So in the second publication, then I'm able to see that the value is being suspended, and when it is being manually annihilated, then we can bridge that gap between classical mechanics to quantum mechanics. So unseen things are valuable than seen things. Things seen than valuable are things unseen. Even though this flipped version, which is the second phrase, even though it has to be symmetric, it is not symmetric by meaning. It is asymmetric. So that is telling us that even though we have the symmetric nature, by having the equilateral triangle right inside the time energy wave model that you will see in the second research publication, their operation is far from being symmetric. You understand? So we'll dissect that more. So that is that. Then I have these little references. You understand? So now let's quickly move to the second research publication, which is this. So I'll quickly increase that for us to see. Okay, so now this is the second research publication, seeing the anatomy of quantum gravity through formula of everything. The author Shota de Olusegun. So the abstract, the prior publication of the time theory of the universe reveals the true nature of time as electromagnetic speed of relativistic scaling through formula of everything. The formula of everything, the TDM equal to capital UM plus 4M, depicts relationship between time and mass, time and energy and mass as inverse. This inverse relationship necessitates the emergence of spontaneous symmetry breaking that connects classical realm to quantum by converting time to energy phase of classical realm to energy phase of quantum realm. So the time quantized value of classical mass is entangled to a counterpart in quantum realm. However, the two entangled masses are suspended far apart by measurable and feasible range. Therefore, this publication, seeing the anatomy of quantum gravity through formula of everything, elucidates the formation of mass of particles at the low energy state as energy travels inversely via entanglement of time relativistic scaling. This mass of particles causes the curvature of space-time at quantum level to emerge quantum gravity. The impact of classical gravity is instantaneously expressed at quantum level and vice versa. Formula of everything illustrates the unification of quantum realm to classical realm as quantum entanglement of time relativistic scaling to and from classical realm by a strong weak conveying interactions. So that is that. Then you can see index terms, formula of everything, quantum gravity, relativity, time speed is faster than the speed of light, time dilation, time traveling, unifying force of the universe. So that is that. So through the introduction, you can see that what do I have there? I have more explanation right there. Now here we're going to start with the application right here. Look at what we have. We have the TDM equals to capital UM plus 4M, which is the formula of everything, the one we had in that the time theory of the universe. So by applying that 86 kilogram, by using the 86 kilogram mass in the formula, then we have it to be this. And finally, we get our answer to be 2.20 times 10 raised to power 41. By having it to be 41, it means that the diagonal trajectory, this is going to be diagonal, is at classical level. We know that. And so we realize that when we'll expand that in standard form, we're going to see that suspension of 344. So at 32nd position, or yes, at 32nd position, I guess. So if you read through, then you can see more. So after getting that suspension, then you see this part is actually analyzing that suspension, and then from where we have the suspension, we can manually annihilate the suspended zeros. And when we only annihilate the suspended zeros, we're going to have vertical trajectory, which will be different from that diagonal, and that will serve as the baseline of that equilateral triangle. So once we have the diagonal to be 2.20 times 10 raised to power 41, it's an action of time, and that we have reaction of energy to be of equal value, but it will be 2.20 times 10 raised to power minus 41. So, but when we now manually annihilate this, we're going to have vertical trajectory, and that will be instant. That is going to be the instant trajectory of time. So now 3.4. So basically we have this to be 344. So if we have that to be 3.4 divided by 10 raised to power 38. So it is being suspended at 38th position. So we're going to get those suspended zero to be 10 raised to power 38. And so when we expand that fraction, we have it to be 3.4 times 1 all over 10 raised to power 38. And so, by having it like this, when we now do cross multiplication, we're going to have it to be 3.4 times 10 raised to power minus 38. And that is the quantum mass what? That is the quantum, the counterpart of that classical mass what? And that is how we are able to bridge right from the classical mechanics down to the quantum mechanics. And so here you can see what I have here, which is what I have here is time energy wave model. Time energy wave collapse. See, this is just to visually illustrate the suspension, you understand, and how we get the information. So this is actually talking about collapsing that to have our solution. So now, basically, now there are some other things that we have, but basically, the time energy wave model, I call it time energy wave function, but this is just to illustrate the suspension, the inverse relationship of time wave to energy wave. You can see what we have right there. So the position phase will be a phase where we can have the instantiation of quantum worth, while the momentum phase will be the phase where we have energy density. You understand? So then I briefly did use Schrodinger wave equation, but what I did was to just try and see, I want to get what electric field would be if I use Schrodinger wave equation. And what I did was trying to, do the derivation such that I have it in 3D. And when you look at that, so I'm using the u squared as the constant speed of the universe in the old derivation. And as you can see where capital T is some placeholder factor, we now apply as follow. So to integrate vector structure in order to have the wave equation in 3 dimensions, we implement the following. You can see what I implemented right there. And so then I continue with that. Then I use this, the Albert Einstein, this mass shell, mass worth and momentum, the entitle of the EMC squared. I have the momentum, I have the mass, I have the energy right there. Then I put that right inside the derivation, and finally see what I get. And then what I get there, I realize that what I have is not, by the time you put, it is not symmetric. What I actually have right there is not symmetric. So my conclusion is electric field is formulated in space of time interval. There will be no electric field without inverse momentum of time to energy. Little wonder electrons spin anti-clockwise while why travel in positive time perturbation and vice versa. The expression of time in inverse relativistic scaling to energy is the quantum entanglement that generates electric field. Meanwhile, minus 1 over 2 squared indicates the inverse relationship of time to energy by relativistic scaling to set low energy state based on second order derivative for the formation of mass particles as position or high energy state based on second order derivatives for the formula for the formation of noise unstable particles through entropy as momentum. So that is that. Then another thing I want to quickly read for you is this place, quantum gravity paradox. I realized there is this quantum gravity paradox. So the imagined occurrence of unusual and inverse interaction in swapping the peregrination of time relativistic scaling from central scaling point at the present in classical realm to singularity scaling point the future in quantum realm based on the reality of quantum gravity is called quantum gravity paradox. So that is another thing I discovered. Sure, you understand? So now basically that is that. And then another thing, this part is actually talking about the time energy wave architecture that bypasses causality. And so I focus on that instant trajectory of time right here. Then I use diagram to illustrate it. So that is that about the whole thing. So that is that about the whole thing. So now there is something I want to briefly show you, which there is something I want to show you. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, so this is it. Now, this is, the time energy wave model, and from this part, you can see the suspension of equilateral triangle right inside it. So you can see this the top area is the classical realm, the down area is the quantum realm. So now in this case, we use the electron's mass worth to get its counterpart, and its counterpart is 2,277,250,000 kilogram. And so all these values, we got them by applying formula of everything. So formula of everything is a powerful formula that feeds back on itself. What I mean by that is that you can use an input to generate an output. You can as well use the generated output as input to generate further outputs. So it's a powerful formula, and this time energy wave model, is the visual representation of its entirety. Now you can see that the connection to the real quantum mass worth is outside the constraint of time energy of the substrate dimension. So we get connected to higher dimension to get the electron of that higher dimension. So the electron of this substrate dimension in the nucleus is going to be where we have this big red convergence to the curvature of energy. There we do not have the instantiation of electron because of the pressure and temperature. In the nucleus, we have constantly accelerated momentum. Energy is energized to accelerate momentum so as to allow us to have this vertical trajectory that would make the momentum of mass convergence to align with the curvature of energy in order for us to have standing wave that will be projected into higher dimension. And it's until when that is connected to that electron of the higher dimension, which is instantly converted to positron, that is when we can then have the electrons of the substrate dimension being instantiated. And that's what we call quantum entanglement. That quantum entanglement, it transmits information instantly, and it is because it connects the substrate dimension to higher dimension. So its momentum is instant, and that is the default trajectory of time. So now, the quantum entanglement as we have it, it's a complex system on its own because it gets connected to higher dimensions. So I call that the entirety of that a complex system because we have integration of that positron into that substrate dimension to energize momentum in that substrate dimension to allow us to go towards the core singularity of the black hole. So now this region, the left region is where we have the cosmological expanding phase, and the right region is the contracting phase of the black holes. So these theories, they explain the entirety of the universe. The formula of everything gives us a solution in form of a field which is static and undulating. Then it is only ideal for us to have such field because when we have a field that is propagating outwards in the cosmological space, then we must have a transiting field where the momentum will be instantly, where the momentum will be slightly quenched or slightly quenched for us to have inverse momentum of that field that is propagating outwards. And then we have that in form of the contracting field that is propagating inwards in the black holes. So that is the entirety of the formula of everything. And we have to call it a day here because there are still more to talk about, but at least this has given you the idea of what the formula of everything is all about, what the first theory and the second theory, what they are all about. So thank you for your time. I'm going to put link to my research publications in the description section below. Do well to download them and explore them for yourself.